Hey, good morning, everybody. Anytime that you imagine an outcome in the future, you are making it up. Let me say that again, folks. Anytime you or I are imagining an outcome in the future, you and I are making it up. And do you realize that the biggest reason that most people don't have the success that they're looking for in life is because they are imagining the wrong outcome? So folks, stick around with me for a few minutes today. We're gonna cover this topic rapidly. We're not going to spend all day talking about it, but this is so important. Let me say that again for those of you in the back of the room, if you weren't paying attention. Anytime you or I imagine an outcome in the future, we are making it up. Guys, it's so important. And it's crazy how the littlest things can make the biggest impact in our lives. Folks, that is such a true statement. As soon as I say it, if you really think about it, you understand how true that statement is. Anytime you are imagining an outcome in the future, you are making it up. Because let's face it, when you're looking at something that's going to happen in a week or in a month, much less even in 15 minutes, like if I try to think about what is going to happen in 15 minutes from now on this video, and I imagine that outcome, I'm making it up because a lot of things can happen in the next 15 minutes. The internet could go out. Something else could come on my heart that's a different topic altogether. One of you guys could make a comment in the chat that totally, causes my imagination of what I'm believing is going to happen in 15 minutes to totally change. So anytime we're imagining an outcome in the future, we're making it up. So why not make up outcomes that serve us? So folks, so often in life, we ask ourselves bad questions. You come into an idea and you're like, well, man, I should write a book. Why don't I write a book? And then almost immediately your mind will start messing with you. And you're like, well, who's going to read that? Nobody's going to want to, who's going to want to read whatever I have to write? Like, who am I to write a book? What have I done in life that is special, that is worthy of writing a book? And if I finished a book, who's going to read it? And all of a sudden, after about 30 seconds of thinking about imagining a future event, you've talked yourself out of writing the book. Because in 30 seconds, you've imagined all of the reasons why it wouldn't work. It happens to us all every single day of our life, and that's why it's such an important thing to tackle, folks. You're sitting there in your cubicle right now listening to this, and you think to yourself, hey, I should walk into my boss's office and ask him for a raise. And as soon as you do that, you think it's a good idea. You've been working extra hard. You've been putting in overtime. You've been doing everything. You deserve a raise. But as soon as that thought hits your mind, before you actually go do it, most of you will start imagining, well, what is he going to say? And what happens if he says no? And worse yet, what happens if he gets mad at me for asking and he fires me? Like, you literally, nobody in their right mind, if you're a good employee that's doing an awesome job, is going to fire you over asking for a raise. At the very worst, they'll say, hey, Brad, I think that you probably deserve a raise, but right now the company is just in a position where we can't afford to pay you more money. But I tell you what you've been doing hasn't been unnoticed, and we are wanting to take care of you. And if you'll stick with us for a little bit longer, we've got some things in mind to compensate you and to take care of you better, because we don't want to lose you. So in other words, most of the stuff that we make up in our minds, most of the stuff that we imagine is totally ridiculous. Like, I've never in my whole life, other than on some goofy TV show or something, like in my whole life, I have never had one of my friends, family members, co-workers, people that I know that have gone and asked politely for a raise that have gotten fired. So when your mind says, man, I can't go in there and ask my boss for a raise. What if he gets mad at me and fires me? It's a ridiculous imagination. Yet a lot of people would have that fear in the moment while they were thinking about it, and it would hold them back. And so, folks, your imagination is one of the most important things. Your God-given birthrights is an imagination. It's one of the most important things that God ever gave us, yet most of us misuse it. And most of us were taught from a young age to stifle it and to turn it off. Hey, what are you guys barking at over there? Trying to do a live stream here. Hey, Nala. Man, I just never know what I'm going to get with these dogs. Sometimes they fall asleep and it's like they're not even here. And other times they want to just, be right in the middle of everything I do. And sometimes I swear, the more important that I feel like the message is, the more important that I feel like it is that you guys are hopefully hearing what I'm saying. It seems like that's when they want to do the, be the worst, distract me the most. And I think it really is. They do, it's like, it's not even them. Will you guys knock it off? Like, sometimes I feel like my message is so important that all of the forces that don't want you to hear what I'm saying try to get in there and make me as distracted and discombobulated as possible. So, guys, this imagination, when you were young, you had a great imagination. Most kids have more imagination than adults. And the thing that I found out in my life, guys, is it's not because kids just have this, ability to imagine better than adults. It's that as we start to grow older, we actually get punished in most environments for having an active imagination. How many of you can remember, it's 11 o'clock and, recess is coming up, and then you get to have some lunch and you're thinking about what you're going to do on recess, your 5th grade, 8th grade, 6th grade, whatever. You're daydreaming about what you're going to do on recess, wondering what's going to be, for lunch that day. Is it going to be hot dogs? Is it going to be pizza? Is it going to be a hamburger? Like, what's for lunch that day? You're daydreaming, and all of a sudden your teacher comes along and, and smacks you upside the head, figuratively, and basically says, hey, Brad, quit daydreaming, quit looking out the window thinking about what you're going to be doing on recess. You're just wasting your time. Pay attention to what I'm doing. And so often in life, our creativity, our ability to imagine starts to get dulled from the time that we're a child. We get told that imagination is a bad thing, when imagination is where everything good in this world comes from. Somebody first had to imagine an automobile before it actually became created. Heck, even this chair that I'm sitting on started off as an idea in somebody's mind. At some point in time, there was somebody standing around and got, tired of sitting down on the dirt in the ground. Maybe they're sitting there in the dirt next to a fire pit and a snake came crawling up, or a spider's crawling on them, or whatever. Somebody's like, this is ridiculous. Why am I sitting on the ground letting all these creepy crawlies and stuff, just crawl all over me? And somebody came up with an idea that it would be better to sit on something than it would be to sit on the ground. And they probably started off, getting a log or a rock or something like that. And then it went from there. And I know these are silly illustrations, but folks, everything that is standing between you and everything that you want out of this life it's basically your imagination and your ability to imagine an outcome that is a positive outcome, that's an outcome that you want. So many people are asking themselves, this question right here is the death of you. If every time you come up with a new idea, your mind immediately goes to, why won't this work? Or what'll happen if this doesn't work? you've already lost. And I can tell you from previous experience and even in my own life that 95 to 99% of the people on this planet, that is the question that they ask themselves all day long. Very, very rarely does anybody actually say, what is it going to be? How amazing is it going to be if this works? 99% of the people out there are focused on what's going to happen if it doesn't work. And guess what? It's not going to work. If you're focused on what it's going to be like if it doesn't work, then for the most part, you're never going to get started. You're never even going to take the first step to writing a book. Like, how many of you, I think that writing a book is one of those things that all of us think about at some point in time in our life. Just about everybody watching here today has probably thought about the possibility of them writing a book. You know, my wife, when her father passed away earlier this year, she started writing a book on grief. You know, I've been kind of, writing a book a little bit, but I've been thinking about writing a book about, cryptocurrency, infinite crypto, infinite millions, how to create financial freedom through cryptocurrency investing. That's been on my mind for quite a while now. And I believe if most of you were honest and were willing to admit it, probably every single one of you that's watching this today has thought about writing a book. Anybody in here willing to be brave enough and admit that they've at least had that idea cross their mind, whether it was, writing about the automobile industry or writing about real estate or writing about whatever your expertise is, or just writing about something that you love. Is anybody here, am I the only one that's ever thought about writing a book? Or have all of you at some point in time thought about writing a book? I would be willing to bet very good money that if you're willing to be honest and open about it, that just about every single person watching this has had an idea at some point in time about writing a book. And I would also bet all of the money that I have that 99% of you talked yourself out of writing that book within about 30 seconds of when the thought hit. And my point is that happens with everything. Man, I really want to learn how to become a professional trader. Oh man, I can't, what's going to happen? What happens if it doesn't work? I'm going to be losing money that I can't afford to lose. My spouse is going to be upset with me because I'm coming home at night, and instead of spending time with them, I'm going to be glued to my screen. Where am I going to get the money to learn? It's expensive to learn how to trade. Even me, like Brad Varnell, I want to learn how to trade, but Brad says, how many times have you heard me say, hey, trading is fantastic for some people, but I don't want to sit behind a computer all day long looking at charts. I don't. So, but it's not my goal. It's not my dream to become a professional trader. But how many of you have thought about the fact that you would maybe like to become a professional trader? How many of you have, thought about maybe opening a business? Like maybe you are working right now currently as an employee for a company, and you think to yourself, man, I could run this company better than my boss does. So I need to start my own company. Maybe you're working for a landscaping company, or maybe you're working for an automotive, garage, or maybe you're working, maybe you're working as a real estate agent, but you've thought about becoming a broker and opening up your own real estate brokerage. And every single time one of these thoughts comes to your mind, within 30 seconds to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, you have thought about all of the reasons, number one, why it won't work. And number two, you've also thought about all of the bad things. You imagined yourself homeless. Have any of you, come on guys, seriously, have any of you thought about starting a business? And then you thought to yourself, man, if this doesn't work, I could end up homeless. And I've got a wife and kids, and what if I fail so miserably that I end up losing my home? I end up losing my cars. What if I can't feed my kids? What if it goes so badly that I can't put food in my kids' mouth? Am I the only one that's had these thoughts? I don't think so. And folks, the fact of the matter is that's all a bunch of baloney. Like, for anybody watching this that's 25, 35, 45 years old, how many times have you gone hungry in your life? Like, I've had some times in my life where I was broke. I mean, like, what I would consider to be pretty darn broke. You know, like negative self-worth, negative financial worth. You know, like my credit cards were, you know, maxed out, and I actually owed more money on my credit cards than I had in investments. You know, I literally remember, I don't know, you know, date myself, but I remember back in the day, you know, like Taco Bell had like these bean and cheese burritos that were like 50 cents or 75 cents, you know, back in 1991 or 1992. You know, I remember Jack in the Box had, you know, the 2 tacos for $1. I remember being so broke that I literally would start scraping through my car and looking under car seats. Anybody but me here, ever looked underneath their car seat and found, you know, tried to like find enough money, a couple bucks worth of change to buy themselves a couple of bean and cheese burritos or a couple of tacos at Jack in the Box? Or they used to have like this big cheeseburger for 99 cents. Anybody but me ever like done that? Back, I'll never forget, guys. You know, I'm really dating myself. I quit smoking in 1999, been 25 going on 26 years. But I remember back in my earlier years when I was a smoker, and I would literally look at the money that I had, and I'd be like, what am I going to do? Am I going to buy a pack of cigarettes, or am I going to eat? Has anybody ever been there? The point that I'm trying to make is, even when I was broke, I figured out how to scrape up $3, $4, $5 a day for a pack of cigarettes when I was a smoker. I never went, I don't know if anybody else here can relate, but as a smoker, no matter how broke I was, I never went a whole day without a cigarette. I always figured it out. And no matter how broke I was, I never even went a whole day without eating. Now, the funny thing is like right now, I just started a 24-hour fast. Maybe it'll turn into a 72-hour fast. I haven't decided. But at about 7:30 this morning, I started a 24-hour fast. So here I am in the middle of choosing not to eat, you know, for the next 24 hours. But I'm telling you guys, like back in a lot of times in my life, I went through some pretty difficult times, but guess what? The times that I went through physically actually experienced, they were never as bad as some of the things that I've imagined in my head. And is that crazy? Does anybody else hear what I'm saying? Like, I remember being in a position for a short period of time where I didn't have a place to live. I was theoretically homeless. Now, I had a car, so I had some friends, but like I literally had this one friend whose mom didn't like me. He still lived with his mom, and she would get up and go to work at like 6 a.m. and she hated me. She didn't like me. And I don't blame her, because I wasn't a very good influence on her friend back then. This is when we're like 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, going through life, chasing girls and smoking cigarettes and like not being responsible, get a job, work for a few weeks, build up a little bit of money, quit the job because we didn't feel like working anymore. I mean, just crazy stuff back then. But my point is, like, I was theoretically homeless, but it never bothered me. It didn't last for very long, and I had a car. Plus, my buddy would let me sleep at his house. But it was funny. We would go out and, you know, chase girls or do whatever we were doing until, you know, 2, 3 in the morning. And then I would literally park about a block away from his house because I knew his mom was going to be waking up at 6 a.m. and leaving for work, and I didn't want her to see my car. So I would park around the corner from his house, and I would fall asleep, man. I would kick my car back, you know, the seat. I'd recline my seat, and I would literally fall asleep in my car for 2 or 3 hours. The sun coming up would normally wake me up. I'd take a look at my watch, and if it was after 6 a.m, then I would literally go and knock on the door. He'd let me in, and we would sleep, you know, in his mom's house, or, you know, it's his house too. He had a bedroom there. But anyways, we would sleep there until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. She was going to be home from work at 4. So we always got up and got out of there before she came home from work. But that's like as bad as my life ever got for the most part. So theoretically, I technically was homeless. But I had a car. I still got plenty of sleep. We figured out a way to scrape enough money together for cigarettes and food. And the whole point of that story was not to tell you guys what an idiot I was. Come on, guys. The point of that story was not to tell you how irresponsible and silly I was when I was young, but just to remind you guys that any of you that have ever thought about, you know, really truly being homeless and not having food, like how many people here have ever gone, you know, 2 or 3 days without any food, not by choice, like just literally you didn't have any money, you didn't have any friends, you didn't have any family that would invite you over and give you a meal. Probably none of you. And if there is somebody here that has gone through that, I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but for the most part, you probably had some kind of an addiction or something that you were doing in life that had driven all of those people away. So one of the things that I was lucky, I never had a problem with drugs or alcohol. And so therefore, none of my friends and family ever just totally disassociated themselves with me and put me in a position where I had to go beg for money. Like I could always borrow a $5 bill or a $10 bill. Somebody would always let me sleep on their couch. Like I was never in a position where I was just so totally, you know, out of options that I had to go beg for money, or I was sleeping, you know, under a bridge or something like that. And I think that most people that get to that point, most of the time they've got some underlying issue in their life other than the fact that they're just not quite, you know, making it. They're not working hard enough. They're not doing the right things in life. So my point is, the long point, my point is all of the stuff that you're imagining that could happen or might happen if you jump out and start your own business, it's all bullcrap. You're not going to end up homeless. You're not going to end up starving and not being able to feed your family. It's an imagination of something that is pretty much almost an impossibility, yet you use these imaginations of what could go wrong and why won't it work to stop you from your dreams. So I'm here to ask you today, what are your dreams, guys? What are you trying to accomplish? Or what have you, you know, when you were 18, 19, 20 years old and just heading out into the world and you had the biggest dreams that you've ever had in your life before the world beat you down, before the world smacked you upside the head a few times and knocked you down onto your knees. Some of you knocked you all the way down to where you're just laying on the ground in a fetal position and you haven't gotten back up, folks. What are some of those dreams? What are some of those things in life that if you started to imagine how awesome it would be if they worked, instead of dreaming and imagining the worst case scenario, what are some of those things that maybe it's time for you to go for? You know, maybe some of you are thinking about, hey, maybe I should write a book. Maybe some of you are thinking, hey, maybe I should start a company. How about, is there anybody here watching this YouTube channel that wants to create financial freedom through investing in cryptocurrency? Anybody? Anybody here? This is a cryptocurrency investing. You know, let's both raise both hands. Is there anybody here that wants to create financial freedom through investing in cryptocurrency? But if you really look yourself in the mirror and are honest with yourself, you're not really any closer to creating freedom in your life than you were 6 months or 2 years ago, because you haven't taken the right action, because you're always wondering, what if I invest in this token and it doesn't work? What if I invest in this token and it goes to zero? What if I invest in this token and it's not one of the tokens that takes off during this bull market? What if I invest in Bitcoin? It's $107,000. And yeah, I know Michael Saylor says that Bitcoin's going to be a $3 million, $5 million, $10 million, $15 million token over the next handful of years, the next decade or so. But what if he's wrong? What if I invest in Bitcoin at $110,000 and it goes all the way back to 20 grand? Then what? What if I lose all of my money investing in cryptocurrency? Like, how many of you here know that you should be so much further in your cryptocurrency investing journey than you are, but you haven't made the right moves? How many here aren't investing enough of your income? How many of you here realize that you're not doing everything that you could do to make more money? Like, most of you that are trying to create financial freedom in cryptocurrency, there's one or two things, one or two little steps, one or two little things that you're not willing to do that are standing between you and everything that you want. How many people here watching this channel are letting pride and ego and what other people are going to think about you determine whether or not you're going to be successful? How many people here are scared to write a book because they're afraid of what their friends and family are going to think, and that their friends and family are going to make fun of them? Their friends and family are going to say, who are you to write a book? You know, you're just Brad Varnell. There's nobody in the Varnell, on the history of the Varnells that's ever written a successful book. You know, who are you to write a book, man? There's nobody like, you know, the Varnells ain't necessarily a wealthy group of people. You know, like I've told you before, my father was an alcoholic. My grandfather was an alcoholic. I don't know my great-grandfather, but I would assume my great-grandfather was an alcoholic. You know, alcoholism runs rampant in my family. My aunts and uncles, a lot of them were alcoholics. My aunt, my dad's sister, drank herself to death by the time she was about 50 years old. My point is, who am I? Who is this Brad Varnell character to think that he's got something worthy to say, that he has something important enough to own the Infinite Crypto YouTube channel? Well, you guys knocked it off. Like, who am I? Well, I'll tell you who I am. I am a child of God. God made me perfect. God made me in his image. And guess what? God made you perfect too. Now, are you perfect? Of course not. He made us perfect, but we all screw up and fall short of the mark. We're all a bunch of sinners that need to be saved by grace. But my point is, on top of your imagination running wild in the wrong direction, the second thing that is holding most of you back, if you don't have the life of your dreams, you're probably worrying way too much about what other people are going to think or say. It's just a normal thing here in society, and it's unfortunate. We should be blessed and have people patting us on the back and cheering for us when we go out and try to do something and fail miserably, you know. But people love to make fun of people, you know, especially when you're younger. You want to be the person, you raise your hand in class and you come out with some kind of a crazy idea, like you're going through, a brainstorming event and you're trying to raise money for something for your third grade class. Any of you have been there? And the teacher is asking you for ideas and you come up with what you think is a great idea and you raise your hand and you blast it out. And everybody laughs and giggles and makes fun of you, even though it's probably a great idea. Most people don't want to admit it. They'd rather tear you down. They say that there's two ways to have the biggest building in a city. One way is to build the biggest building. The other way is to tear down any of the buildings that are taller than you. And unfortunately, most human beings go through this life trying to tear down the buildings that are bigger than them, trying to tear down the people that are doing better than them. Oh, that person's greedy. That person is unscrupulous. That person doesn't have good morals. That person, of course, that person is successful. They're taking advantage of everybody, and so on and so forth. And if that doesn't work, oh, that person, that person's marriage, yeah, he's successful in business, but that person's marriage isn't working out very good, and his kids don't like him, or whatever, guys. My point is, you got to quit worrying about what other people are going to say about you. When you're writing a book, like I'm writing a book about infinite crypto, infinite millions, creating financial freedom. Well, guess what? I've been doing this for 10 years and I have almost nobody in my immediate family circle that has any significant amount of crypto. It's crazy. It drives me crazy. For years, it bothered the heck out of me that my own brother-in-law, that my own sisters, that my aunts and uncles, people that I love dearly, we would go have Thanksgiving and I would try to share blockchain technology with these people. And all I would do is manage to get put down and ridiculed, and how Bitcoin was this fake imaginary pie in the sky. It was too late. I'll never forget my brother-in-law got told about Bitcoin at $4,000 and he didn't buy any. So when I ended up talking to him about it, it was $10,000, and now it was too late. His buddy told him about it. A coworker told him about it at $4,000. And then when I told him about it at $10,000, it was too late. And now here we are 7 years later with Bitcoin at over $100,000, and he doesn't own any Bitcoin. So I understand. I've gone through all of this too. You know, I've heard it all. Like, why in the world did you start a YouTube channel, Brad? What makes you think that anybody's going to want to listen to you? I don't know if any of you guys were back here during the journey to the first 1,000 subscribers, but I'll tell you what, man, I wanted to quit a bunch of times on the way to 1,000 subscribers because it just didn't feel like anybody cared. Nobody was listening. Nobody, you know, you go back and look at some of the original videos from back in 21, and it just felt like, man, it was an uphill battle. My point is, these people don't pay your bills. You're not going to put your kids in private school. They're not going to help your son or daughter when they turn 16 get their first car. They're not going to help put your son or daughter through college. They're not going to help, you know, they're not going to pay your rent if you fall behind. They're not going to save your house if you get behind on your mortgage payment. All of these people who you are worried about what they think, they don't think about you anywhere near as much as you think they do. They don't care. They got their own life and their own problems, yet you are using your imagination and in most cases making stuff up about what these people are saying about you and thinking about you and using it as a reason to not go out and accomplish and achieve your dreams, guys. I need to take a breath. My wife tells me when I'm talking that I need to slow down. I get rolling and, man, I just go. And I don't know if that's good or bad. Hopefully it gets you guys, you know, fired up. I need to probably work on slowing down a little bit so that you can actually digest what I'm saying, because when I'm talking fast, I go from one point and I just barely even finish that point and I'm on to the next point. And that's part of the reason I probably talk so much, is because I say something so quickly. What I do is I'll say it about 5 different ways. I say the same thing, but I say it 5 different ways, hoping that you guys get it. And in some cases, you probably got it the first time. And you're like, why are you saying this thing 5 times? I heard you the first time, Brad. We're good. Move on. But, you know, today, those are really the 2 things that I wanted to talk to you about. You know, and the reason that it's on my heart is because I just feel like so many of you, and me too, we're like in this moment of time where it feels like we're so close. Like it just feels like we're so close to all of our dreams and goals and things that we've been working so hard for coming to fruition. Yet on the other side of that, it also feels like we are so far away. Like, when is crypto going to finally do what crypto does? You know, when are the stupid Atom tokens that Brad's been telling me to buy and stake on Coinbase and earn 14% interest on actually going to do something? Like, they're right back to $4, a little over $4. You know, Polkadot. was just back to 376 or 380 or something crazy like that. And sometimes, guys, it can be so hard to keep on keeping on. You know, they say that 1% doubt will take you out. And so if you have any doubt in cryptocurrency and in its ability to create financial freedom in your life, you're probably not going to take the steps. Like, I'm curious, has anybody here in the channel, if you have, I would appreciate you being honest. Has anybody here went and got a second job just for the ability to invest that money into crypto? So have any of you? And I'll be the first one to admit, I have not gone out and got a second job. I've thought about it. You know, sometimes, you know, I live by the old do as I say, not as I do. So I'm not down on anybody, but I'm just wondering, is there anybody here that has such a strong conviction and such a strong belief in crypto that they've volunteered for overtime, or they've gone and got a second job just to use that money for crypto? So, like, is there anybody here that they're paying their bills through their immediate job or their number one job, and you've gone and gotten a second job and you invest like most of the money that you make on that second job into crypto? Has anybody here done that? My guess is probably not. Maybe one of you. But I tell you what, if you guys are sitting here and there's 25 or 50 or 100 of you watching this right now, and there's one person that gone out and got a second job and is investing 100% of that money that they make part-time into crypto while they're paying their bills with their full-time job, and then the other 99% of us are just barely scraping by, trying to make ends meet with our normal job, and we're just giving our cryptocurrency investing our crumbs. We're just the scraps of whatever's left over. Well, who do you think, number one, really believes that cryptocurrency is going to change their life? And number two, who do you think is going to be the most successful? Who do you think at the end of this bull run is going to raise their hand and say, hey, yeah, I actually became a millionaire this bull run, and I was able to go in and tell my boss to go pound sand, that I couldn't afford to work for him anymore? Is it going to be those of us that didn't have a big enough belief, that weren't willing to go the extra mile and give up some Netflix and chill for 6 months or a year or two? Like, would it hurt any of us to not watch TV for 6 months? I don't think so. In fact, I think most of us, if we got rid of the TV for 6 months, we'd probably never want it back. But my point is, there's a guy or two out here in this audience that are taking this opportunity seriously. And then there's the rest of us that do it when we can, and we do it when it's convenient. And yeah, if we got a few extra dollars, we invest it into some crypto. Is there anybody else? Let me ask another question, man. Is there anybody else here that got an income tax refund this year and that just dumped it all into crypto? Anybody? My guess would be that 99% of us probably use the majority of our income tax money to pay bills, to have some fun. How many here used it to go on a vacation? How many here used it to, you know, maybe get a vehicle, buy another car, down payment on a new car? How many of us used it because summertime's coming and we wanted to have a boat that we could go out on, and so on and so forth? But how many, like the guy that's going to be rich, the guy that's going to actually go fire his boss at the end of this bull run, is the guy that took that $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 and it hadn't been in his bank account for 5 minutes, and he went invested it into cryptocurrency, whatever that cryptocurrency was. And so, guys, the biggest reason that most of us don't do enough is because we don't have the 100% belief in the outcome. Most of us just think that we can maybe get rich if we invest in crypto. It's a possibility. Very few of us have the conviction that it's absolutely inevitable. You got to go from thinking that something is a pretty good maybe to believing that it is inevitable. If you do the right steps, if you do A, B, C, and D, the outcome and the likelihood of E happening is pretty much 100%. Guys, there are success principles in this life, but most of us don't take the time to program our mind to where we don't have any doubt. You got to be able to wade through the doubt. You got to be able to wade through the haters. You got to be able to wade through the people that don't see what you see. Guys, nobody's going to see what you see. I was one of these guys for a long time. Has anybody ever been here? I would be so much more successful if. And then you tell people, if my husband or my wife or my boyfriend or my girlfriend, my significant other, if they would just believe in me, if they would just support what I'm trying to do, I would be more successful. That's what's standing between me and my success. Am I the only one that's ever had that excuse? I doubt that I am. I think that most of us want people to believe in us before we've ever given them a reason to believe. Like, guys, I understand. I was 42, 43 years old and couldn't, like, I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. In fact, probably not that long before I started telling my brother-in-law how much money I was going to make in cryptocurrency and that it was the way to create financial freedom, I borrowed $800 from him to buy my kids' school clothes. I'm telling you guys, I've done it all. Yeah, it's literally a week before school. I got kids that are probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 and 12 or something like that, like 8 or 9 or, 11, 12, something like that. Child getting ready to go into the 4th or 5th grade, another one going into 7th grade. And I'm so broke that I can't go school shopping for them. And you know how important it is to have some nice new clothes when you're going to school, man. You can't show up to the next school year without some new clothes. And so I borrowed $800 from my brother-in-law and I went shopping and I bought my kids clothes. So for those of you that think I don't know what it's like to be broke and to not be unsuccessful and to be doing everything wrong in life, I do. But that's part of the reason I don't give my brother-in-law too hard of a time when he didn't go buy any Bitcoin at 10 grand, because why in the world would the broke brother-in-law that just borrowed $800 from him know anything about crypto? Of course he didn't think I knew what I was talking about. Yeah, I did. But if you look at my past, it's no great secret why this guy didn't believe in me. I think it's an absolute miracle that my wife has stuck with me and has believed in me all these years. And I've been very lucky with my wife. In the past, I wasn't as lucky as I am. But my point is, what I want to get around to, the reason I started saying this is because quit waiting for your husband or your wife to believe in you. Quit waiting for your mom or your dad to believe in you. Quit waiting for your kids to believe in you. Quit waiting for your sisters and your brothers to believe in you. They're not going to believe in you. They got no reason to believe in you. You probably haven't had much success at anything that you've done in your whole life. So why are they going to believe in you now? But the fact of the matter is, folks, is that that's just a crummy excuse for people to not do the work. Because what if you prove your family right? What if you do everything that you can do? What if you go get a second job? And when people ask you, why are you working a second job? And you tell them, so that I can invest all of this money into cryptocurrency and get rich. And then what happens if you're wrong? What if you look like an idiot? You go work this second job for the next 2 years and you invest all this money into crypto, and then crypto goes out of business. Crypto goes away. You were wrong about blockchain technology and it revolutionizing the world. What if? Most of you don't really care if your family believes in you or not, but it's a convenient excuse to not go all in, because what if you prove them right? Well, darn it, once again, it comes back to your imagination. You're imagining a future outcome. You're imagining a future outcome that's in the future. And instead of imagining how awesome it's going to be when you prove that you were right and you go in and you quit your job and you have financial freedom, and those same family members that thought you were crazy are now trying to borrow money from you, or they're coming to you and asking you for advice on what they should invest in, that's the outcome. You got to get your imagination right. You got to get your doubt right, no doubt. You got to be willing to go the extra mile. Do what other people are not willing to do. Have you ever heard that before? I am willing to do what other people are not willing to do so that I can have what other people are not willing to have. I'm telling you, cryptocurrency is about the easiest thing, or I should say the simplest thing. Cryptocurrency investing is the simplest thing to create massive, massive wealth in, but it ain't easy because you got to do things that other people think is crazy. You got to invest money that other people aren't willing to invest. You got to go out on a limb and make money that other people aren't willing to go out and make. Get a second job, drive for Uber. I've told you guys this a million times. Like, go make $50 a day driving for Uber in the evening instead of watching TV. Throw that $50 a day into tokens. You realize $50 a day, 5 days a week is an extra $1,000 a month. In 1 year, you would invest $1,200 into crypto. There's some of you watching this channel right now that haven't invested $1,200 in crypto, and you've been investing in crypto for 2 or 3 years. But you think that you're going to create financial freedom in crypto. What would an extra $1,000 a month going into crypto look like for you over the course of 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? It's enough to create financial freedom. Yet most of you have, like, seriously, have any of you ever thought about driving for Uber and then you have imagined this scenario? You're driving for Uber, you're rolling down the road, you're listening to some good, Jim Rohn or Tony Robbins, something that's pumping up your mind. You're excited. You're going to make $50 today to invest in crypto. That $50 is going to 10 or 20x. So every day you're out there, you're actually making $500 or $1,000 a day on Uber. And then all of a sudden you think to yourself, oh, but what if I'm driving down the road and all of a sudden I get a call for Uber and I show up at the restaurant and one of my coworkers comes walking up to my car. And they're like, Brad, what are you doing, Brad? Are you serious, man? You're driving for Uber? You make 6 figures at your job, Brad. What are you doing? Why are you driving for Uber? Am I the only one? I actually drove for Uber for a little while, way back in about 2016. But seriously, I've thought about doing it again, and I've had that thought. Am I the only one that's ever thought about something like that? How embarrassing would it be if one of you guys, like I'm looking at you guys, even though I should be looking at the camera, but like, seriously, I have thought about getting a job a couple of different times during this bear market. And I literally have thought, what would my community think about me if they knew that I went out and got a job? I've had that thought, and I thought, man, that would be embarrassing. Like, I thought about, like being a waiter, being a server at a restaurant is going to make more money than most average jobs. I've got a great personality. I would be a great server at a restaurant. And there's been some times when life has been tough. And I thought, man, if you got a part-time job at a restaurant, even 20, 30 hours a week, and you're making, $25, $30 an hour, you could make a pretty decent chunk of money, and the YouTube channel wouldn't even miss you. You'd still be able to do your live streams. Most restaurants don't want you working at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd be working at evening. But I've literally thought to myself, what in the world would I do if all of a sudden I walk up to a table and it's one of you guys like that? And I live out in Kingman, Arizona right now. And there ain't none of you that have ever even probably set foot in Kingman, Arizona, but especially when I lived out in Vegas. What if, like, the crazy things we tell ourselves? I literally thought about this. What if one of my old coworkers that I used to deal poker with, that now knows that I own this YouTube channel and that I had an amazing run in 2021, that I, thinks I'm probably set for life. They don't realize that I made some mistakes and that, 22 and 23 and a lot of 24 were rough. And I think to myself, what if I'm out waiting tables and one of my ex-coworkers comes in and they go, oh my God, I guess Brad isn't doing as good as I thought he was. That thought kept me from going and getting a job serving. That thought kept me from Ubering because I was worried about what if I ran into somebody that I know and what they would think about me. And it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. And that's why I can speak to you about it, because I'm ashamed of myself for some of the stupid stuff. You know what? You could probably Uber every day for the rest of your life and never, ever, ever run into anybody that you know. I could probably be a waiter at a restaurant for years without ever running into somebody that I know. And the fact of the matter is, even if it happened, so what? Even if they made fun of me, so what? Like, even what if I was right? I ran into one of my ex-coworkers and they made fun of me and they said, oh gosh, Brad, I thought you were this big YouTuber. You know, hundreds of thousands of subscribers and made millions of dollars in crypto and blah, blah, blah. Why are you working as a waiter at a restaurant? And I said, you know what? I'm working as a waiter at a restaurant because, yeah, I made millions, but I also lost millions. And now that I know how valuable cryptocurrency is going to be in the future, this $30 an hour that I'm making at this Outback Steakhouse or this Red Robin burger joint or whatever, I'm investing it because I know that I'm going to 10 or 20x that money. So I'm actually making $300 to $500 an hour here working at this restaurant. How much money are you making again dealing poker? 20, 30 bucks an hour? Yeah. So why in the world would you want to make fun of me for working a job where I'm making 20 or 30 bucks an hour, but I'm investing in it and I'm making 2 or 3 or 4 or 500 an hour? Yeah, logically speaking, that's what I should have thought. But emotionally speaking, I let stuff like that stop me from doing some of the things that would have probably changed the trajectory of my life. If I would have been man enough to go out in 2022 when it was obvious, especially, you know, towards mid to end of 2022, when it was obvious that we were in a straight up bear market and that it was going to be a couple, 2 or 3 years before the times got good again. If I would have been man enough to just go get a job and not worry about what you guys thought as my YouTube community, not worried about what my ex-coworkers might have thought if they would have ran into me, not worried about what my family would have thought if any of them were thinking. Right now, I probably wouldn't be going through any of the financial difficulties that I'm still experiencing. I mean, things are getting better, but I'm nowhere near where I would have been. So once again, I'm the pot calling the kettle black. But what is it that's holding you back? Who are you scared of making fun of you that's causing you to not go get that waiter job at night or causing you to not go get your Uber set up? What is holding you back from doing the things that you know are standing between you and everything that you want in life? Because the crazy thing is, guys, you know what? All we got to do to have everything that we want in life is to quit not doing the things that'll give us everything we want in life. Like, every single one of you that's watching this is a pretty darn intelligent person. I've met a lot of you. I've talked to a lot of you. There's nobody on here watching this channel right now that's not pretty darn intelligent. So if I were to get on a phone call with you and say, hey, what are the 2 or 3 things, maybe there's 5, but in most people's cases, what are the 1, 2, 3 things that are holding you back from every dream coming true in your life? Every single one of you would probably be able to tell me it's this, this, and this. And if I asked you, how long have you known that those are the 2 or 3 things that are holding you back? Most of you would say 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Why? Why would you go through life for 1 more minute when you've got the blueprint right in front of you, when you know what 1 or 2 or 3 things you're doing in life are holding you back from everything that you've ever wanted? Why would you continue to let those things stop you? So that's like, I'm not here to tell you what those things are. You already know. In fact, I mean, I don't know if anybody wants to admit to it, but is there anybody here in the chat that's willing to raise their hand and say, yeah, I know that this one thing is holding me back? So I'll tell you, I got a couple of things in my life that have been holding me back. Number one, I'm not a morning person, or at least I've told myself that for years. I've been talking about getting up at like 5 in the morning for years. And most of the people that I know in my life that have everything that I want to have, that have the body, that have the health, that have the relationships, that have the multi-millions of dollars, they all get up earlier than I do in the morning. Even last night, I thought to myself, why don't you start a brand new habit, Brad? Why don't you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go to the gym, read your Bible, spend some time with God, and then when 7 a.m. rolls around, which is around the time that I normally get up, you've already accomplished more in those couple of hours than a lot of people accomplish all day. I also know that that's one of the things that's impeding my journey to getting fit. So we've been doing great on our diet, but we haven't really been doing a great job on our exercising. And my wife and I have both talked about it. We both know that, hey, once the day gets rolling and afternoon rolls around, and then, you know, she is working right now. She gets off work at 5 o'clock. She gets off work at 5. We still got to eat dinner. I'm still working on things for the Infinite AGAPE project. I'm working on stuff for the YouTube channel. It's an excuse. We could go work out in the evening, but we both agree that if we were to just get up earlier in the morning, it would be so much easier to start our day with a workout than it is to try to go do the workout later at night. So the other thing is I promise you, and this is not, I'm not bragging about myself here. I'm a very humble person. I know that these talents are God-given, but I believe that I could have a lot of impact, that I have a message that a lot of people would resonate with if I could get onto some of the right stages, if I could be a speaker at some events, that I could impact a lot of people's lives. And it's been a dream of mine. But you know what? The number one thing that's held me back? This stomach of mine. Like, guys, seriously, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent. We've been here for an hour, but look at this, guys. I want to be blatantly real, 100% transparent with you guys. I want to show you something here. I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to pull this up right here, and then I'm going to share my screen. And there's some of you that maybe will give me my own advice and say, hey, that's not what's holding you back. You know, that's all in your head and blah, blah, blah. And maybe there's, you know, part of you is right. But at the same time, I know that the people, why won't this thing load? Come on, man. So I know that a lot of the reason why I'm struggling is this overweightness. Are you kidding me here? Oh man, sorry guys, trying to do something here and the computer doesn't want to cooperate. You guys remember how excited I was about this new computer a couple of months ago? Man, it's crazy how fast this thing has gotten bogged down. I guess I've got too much downloaded on it, too much going on, and of course. Anyways, go watch the DIMITRA video that I did sitting there on a couch. You know, one of the reasons that I have my camera set up the way that I have it is it's got to sit above. I've got a computer right here. My finger's touching the top of the computer. So that's part of the reason. But the other reason is I don't like you guys seeing what is below here because I got a pretty massive belly. And so I did this interview at Bitcoin 2025, and I'm sitting on a couch with John Trask. And long story short, man, the guys that I want to be on stage with, the Andy Elliott's, the Brad Lees, the David Meltzers, the Cap Chatfields, the guys that are heroes to me, one of the things that they've done, will you guys knock it off? One of the things that they've all done is they've had the discipline in their life to figure out what's going into their body and to figure out their exercise, and they've tamed their body. They're all in great shape. So I know that one of the things that's held me back from having the absolute massive success that I really want to have in my life, from being a guy that's getting invited to speak on stages and that type of thing, is my overweightness. And I also know that part of the reason that I have the struggle with my overweightness is because I have had this block about getting up early in the morning. Because, man, let's face it, if you're getting up at 5 in the morning, you probably need to be going to bed at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. I usually stay up till 12, 1 in the morning. So, you know, when I get up at 7 in the morning, it's not like I slept for 10 hours or even 8 hours. Sometimes I'm in bed by 11 o'clock at night and get 8 hours. But like last night, it was probably 12:15 before I turned off the TV, 12:30 by the time I went to bed, and I got up at around 7 o'clock this morning. So it's not like I'm sleeping for an extraordinary amount of time. It's just that in order to get up at 5 in the morning, I think to myself, oh my gosh, man, I don't want to be going to bed at 12:30 at night, getting up at 5 in the morning. That's going to suck. But so anyways, let me see here. Vanesh says, my daily routine is worse now. I met with an accident 2 years ago, undergone surgery. It was resting for a long time. Now my routine is really bad, awake all day and sleeping all night. Vegas, what did Vegas say here? Vegas said, I wasted it last year, but bought some ETH this year. I'm not sure what that is in reference to. But, you know, my point is, guys, everybody's got a couple things in their life that they probably know are holding them back from all of the dreams and all of the things that they want to have, from having the best relationships, to having their finances totally in order, to having their health totally in order. You know, I'm getting ready to be 52 here next month, guys. For those of you that are keeping track, my birthday is July 30th. So I'm just a little over a month from turning 52. And man, when I was 35, 37, 40, my overweightness bothered me, but it didn't feel like it was life-threatening. Where now I'm starting to realize, you know, that, I mean, like seriously, I mean, I've got sleep apnea. I have used a CPAP machine for probably 18 years now. I think I got a CPAP machine back in 2007, 2006, 2005. Maybe it's been 20 years, 2005, somewhere 2005 to 2007. I got my first CPAP machine. I've used one ever since, but I didn't need one when I was younger. And I'm pretty sure that when I get rid of another, will you guys please? I get rid of another 50, 60 pounds and I'm not going to need a CPAP machine. You know, I'm type 2 diabetic. My A1C is off the charts. You know, my blood sugar level is off the charts. I'm a guy, I don't like taking a bunch of medications. So people, they've been wanting to get me on insulin for a long time now. And I keep telling them I ain't doing it. I'm just going to take care of this myself. I'm going to do it through diet and exercise. But for, you know, a long time, I think I became a type 2 diabetic somewhere around the age of 38 to 40, in that ballpark. So for 10 years, 12 years now, I've been a type 2 diabetic, and I've been anywhere from 25, 30, 40 pounds overweight all the way up to 70 or 80 pounds overweight over the last decade, even though I know I'm a type 2 diabetic and that it's killing me. It's bad for my organs. It's bad for my eyesight. Like, it's ridiculous that I have let this go on for as long as I have. But I'm here to tell you, like, that one of the things that I know would make a massive difference in my health is getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And you can ask my wife if she's still on here, that's something I've been talking about for years and years and years. She's probably sick of hearing it because I talk about how much better my life would be if I was just getting up a couple hours earlier in the day than I have been. So, you know, I tell you guys all the time that when I have these talks, they're as much for me as they are for you guys. And this is another one that is so true. I'm talking to me. When I say, what are the 1 or 2 or 3 things that are holding you back? I know that you have them because I have them. And I know that you know what they are because I know what mine are. And, you know, I tell you what, if you didn't know that you had 2 or 3 things holding you back, well, now you do. And if you weren't aware of what they are, go become aware of them. And then once you become aware of them, please do me a favor. Don't take 10 or 15 years to get it fixed. Don't be sitting around 10 or 15 years later on a YouTube channel talking to your community, telling them how you've known that these were the 2 or 3 things that you needed to do, and that you didn't, and that you still haven't started doing them. So with that, folks, man, I love you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you. 10:10, here I am. You know, I really thought I could be done talking in about 30 minutes today. Here I am at over an hour. I hope you guys got some value out of this stuff. And hopefully some of you, even if just one of you, takes this message seriously and really starts tackling the 2 or 3 things that are standing between you and everything you want, then it was worth this time here today. God bless you all. I love you all. Have an amazing, amazing, amazing rest of your day. And we will see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. on the Tuesday Trader live stream. Take care, folks. Bye-bye for now.